Okay, I'm here. Hi, this is Kathleen Peric. This is American Hominin Breed Ghost Tours, and I am a screenwriter, a movie writer, and a novel writer. And lately I have this book on Amazon called American Hominin Breed. It has 2 different covers. It's also at Barnes & Noble. And we're going to take a tour, a ghost tour. And today we're going to talk about the urban legend of the Blair Witch of Burkittsville, Maryland. The secret behind the urban legend is an historic event that began in the year 1785. It was then that an old mysterious lady of the woods of Burkittsville, Maryland, that was named Eli Kidward. She was well known to the townspeople to live in the woods. She was then an outcast to the society and was scorned by the people of Burkittsville. Eli Kenwood originally came to America as an immigrant from Ireland. It was first in Ireland where she first learned to practice witchcraft. There are still rumors today that say she put a curse in the woods in the area of no other than Coffin Rock in Burkittsville, Maryland. Burkittsville, actually. Eli Kenwood, urban legend, she's a witch, began when she was noted to be seen talking to the children in the town of Burkittsville and was seen luring the innocents to the woods. These children were all established as missing persons eventually. These missing children were turning up missing all the way until the mid-1800s. The history of Blair Witch has a mythology behind it that has been told for hundreds of years, as the secrets of the woods curse have been handed down from generation to generation of the townspeople called Fort Blair itself. And Fort Blair itself was first established in the year 1634 by a colonel in the British Army. He named it Blair after himself. This stems from back in the days of the original colonies. It was way back then when we remember the 1692 witches of Salem. Witchcraft was a common practice back then, and as history would have it, many witches were burned at the stake, as we all know it. Fort Blair originally became haunted by ghostly beings of death, of being soldiers, and as well as the Native American Indians. And actually they fought each other, and they created these ghostly beings and negative spirits in the area. These bones can be still found under the festering the ruins of time. The grounds of the Coffin Rock are known to be breathing, as the town's people would have it. Whispers and chants of the dead can be heard coming through the fog and misty moors of the woods. Fort Blair became the name of the town. Eli, the Blair Witch story, actually is a sad one. Her story began because she had watched her parents tortured by evildoers of the township. This is the reason that Eli cursed the town thereafter, that all the townspeople's children would die, because she was tortured as a child and had to see these deaths of her childhood. And she would curse them to have bloody deaths. She vowed to inflict the pain, some pain on all with the supernatural power that she has as a witch. Even after her death, a shriveled up old lady in a black hooded cloak can be seen hovering in the trenches and floating above the trees in the ground, and her feet never touched the ground. Several children of the town of Blair had made complaints of the witch lady in the woods that would try to lure them to her place near Coffin Rock. In 1823, a man that worked in the railroad, and his name was Peter Burgett, surveyed the land and renamed it Burkittsville, where many settlers established the population there as Burkittsville. When the townspeople realized that there was a presence of the Blair Witch, the townspeople had banished her to the confinement of the woods only, but only to find that it made the witch furious, as half the townspeople's children vanished into thin air. The townspeople of Burkittsville back then felt the furious curse and the power that the witch of Blair had on their town. By the year 1809, Blair Witch had noted cults, and there was a book out that was created, and that was in witch symbols, witchcraft symbols, and witches have their own symbols, I guess their own Bible and stuff. So in 1825, a 10-year-old little girl named Eileen Tricot was playing in the creek, known as Coffin Rock now, then known as Tappy East Creek. The townspeople had been celebrating the harvest season, and the first year in 1825, newly founded town of Burkittsville, is only a year old, a new township at that time, as a beautiful stream for recreation and celebration, known as Coffin Rock now. That is why the townspeople had their annual celebration picnic at Coffin Rock, and these townspeople had bared witness to a sighting of horror in front of them. The little girl playing in the woods, in the creek, face down, looked and saw a white covered, her face was white and was covered with fear. She started screaming. She saw a long nail with long white nails. Her face turned pale, and she saw a ghostly hand come out. It was very ghastly. It reached out, grabbed her. It came from inside of the water, pulled her down underneath into the current of the water of the creek while she screamed in horror, and because of the clench of its grip, the young girl was never seen again. The townspeople blamed the disappearance on the Blair Witch curse. In 1886, another little girl named Robin River came running into the town scared. The little girl told the townspeople that an ugly old lady dressed in a black hooded cloak and had feet that hovered above the ground. The old woman had kidnapped her by luring her to a house in the woods. Because Robin had been found to be missing for several hours, a team of rescue workers, had sought out after her. They did scouting in the woods. This rescue team never returned, but she did. After Robin coming home and was safe, another search party set out to find the first search party that never returned. The first search party was found in a pile of bodies. Each and every body was found in the nude with arms and limbs cut off. The most mysterious notation to be recorded is that there were symbols carved all over the body parts, like the forehead, the back, the feet. These symbols were noted to be the old letterage that's used in witchcraft cults. The pile was piled up in a star formation on a rock at the creek. The most heinous part is that inside the organs, well, all the organs were on the outside. So the inside organs of the bodies were extracted and taken. I guess somebody wanted dinner. The second team came back with equipment to remove the bodies, but just as mysterious as they happened to find them, there was no explanation why their bodies disappeared, never to be found again. The location of the body massacre pileup was significant because it was at the creek that people once enjoyed. The townspeople now dubbed it as Coffin Rock. Nobody ever dared to return around there for many decades. Moving forward to the year 1940, a man named Rustin Parr had built a shack in the woods. It's like a 3-story shack, but a pretty good one. He wanted to be alone. He was a hermit. He was known as the town's weird hermit. Soon the old man hermit was seeing strange things and sightings of an old woman with white hair, dark cloaked. During that time, a group of 8 children were found with bodies mutilated in his woods, in the shack nearby, in his wood that's located in the woods. Each child had been found to be missing one by one over a period of 6 months. The people of the town became suspicious of Rustin Parr when he began ramblings things in a stupor, saying that he was finally finished. Rustin Parr was taken into custody when they found the bodies of 7 of the 8 children he said that he had in his shack cellar. The 8th child was named Kyle Brody, who was found unharmed. Rustin Parr was asked by authorities why he did it. His mumblings and answers spoke about a woman that floated above ground in the woods that would come to him and whisper in his ears and tell him to do unspeakable things in the town to the town's children. He noted to be recorded on the camera to tell these stories of the old woman in the hooded cloak that lived in the woods. Rustin Parr told authorities about how the old woman in the long black hooded cloak would appear at his bedside and spoke to him in his dreams. He said then he heard the old crackling voice in his head daily. These voices had made him go mad and filled his mind with wanting to prey on little children. Then, upon the witch's will, Rustin set out to do the witch's dirty command. The old man, Rustin, he was too weak not to succumb to the evil voices and forces that took control over his mind. His orders were to have one child which, while he tore the guts out of in front of another that stood lined up in front of a wall. When the children were found, they found that Rustin Parr had carved witch cult symbols in their skin all over their bodies. The 8th child, Kyle Brody, that was left alive, was to tell the townspeople what he saw as a witness. She wanted to prove she was real. This was the show to show the power of the curse of the Blair Witch is true. She then came onto Kyle Brody's dreams and drove him insane as he grew up, because he spent most of the rest of his days after that in the insane asylum. After the task was done and Rustin Parr told the townspeople that an old witch ghost told him to do it, he said that the voices were gone afterwards. He then tried to apologize to the town, but the authorities didn't buy it, his story, and convicted him and hung him. But the story made its way into the history books of the tale of the witch of the, it's known as the urban legend of the witch, which is in Maryland, Burkittsville, called the Blair Witch. Eventually, Kyle Brody committed suicide with a spoon. During Kyle Brody's stay in the insane asylum, he did a lot of drawings of witchcraft symbols. They were found in his artwork, in Kyle's artwork. 50 years later, the urban legend came to reality as 3 college students that set up camp in the woods to do a documentary on the Blair Witch legacy. These college students were Heather Donahue, Josh Leonard, and Michael Williams. They documented several interviews with the townspeople of Burkittsville. They came across many stories to record for history. One interview was from an old lady named Mary that claimed to have seen the Blair Witch herself in person. Her description seemed more like the sightings of Bigfoot, as she described the creature as an old woman described a half human and covered in hair. It's a hairy beast she saw. The 3 college students never returned from their hike into the woods to do their documentary. The only thing that was found was and left behind was their film reels on their documentary. The reels were found in a duffel bag by other college students that came there later. The stories left behind on the film reels left behind the true legacy of the urban legend in the woods we now know today throughout the whole world as the Blair Witch. And that's all I have.